Hey there! Tim wants to be a better person who is more kind, and we're just gonna figure out why does he want to be a kinder person? I don't know. Let's just jump right into it. Or not. Well, welcome back to Thoughtraid, a show we take on thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon, this is Tim, and in this exact moment I realized I was probably not looking at the camera when I was talking to everyone, so I was probably looking off some other direction completely. Anyways, so today, Tim, he wants to become a better person, and I'm all for it. But I'm very curious what led you to this desire to be a kinder person, because it's not like you're a very rude or obtuse person in general anyways. So what's on your mind, Tim? What brought you to this moment?
Well, so Ariane and I have been watching this show on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum, and I don't know if you guys have watched it, but it's actually it's super good. It's one of those things where it's a documentary where it follows people on their journey to do something. And in this specific situation, it takes part in Australia. So all these people are Australian. And it follows like 5 or 6 people on the autistic spectrum who are on the search or on the journey trying to find true love. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting because we also really enjoyed Atypical. Have you heard of that?
Not heard of that either.
Yeah, Atypical is also a really good Netflix show where it follows the story of the protagonist, Sam, and he's on the autistic spectrum. And it shows him navigating his life and how he responds to things. And it's like they think about things in a much different way. And in that show, also, one of the big things that I got from watching it was that it seems like, and guys, I don't want this to be a conversation about autism specifically.
We are not skillful, trained people in how to handle people with autism by any means.
Well, I'm also not trying to make them seem like a different class of person in any way.
Which they're not.
I'm just talking about how I've seen people on the spectrum respond to things differently than me. But in this show and also in Atypical, so in Atypical and Love on the Spectrum, it just seems like maybe it's the people that they cast or people that are autistic in general. And I don't have a lot of interaction with people who are autistic, or I don't. Just thinking about it, nobody comes to mind. Like, I don't have any...
You don't have a lot of people who are autistic that are in your life.
Thank you. Yeah. But anyway, from the examples that I followed and that was set in the shows, it just seems like they're not very deceptive. You know, they don't have a sense of self-preservation. They don't have a sense of pride. And they have a really difficult time lying. Like in Atypical, Sam, there was this whole story arc where his friend Sahid tries to convince him, you need to lie about this. And there's this whole story about how to lie, why to lie, when to lie. And it was like a mastery that he had to work at. Whereas I feel like for normal people, lying and being deceptive and prideful and stuff just comes as second nature.
It's as easy as breathing.
Yeah. Like, do you feel like it's easier for you? Is it easier for you to be deceptive, prideful, and all that stuff than it is to be kind?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've allowed myself to be that way, but it depends. Usually the times where I'm more tempted to lie is when someone is being very aggressive with me. Mm-hmm. In order to just be compliant to the situation or something. Like, for instance, if someone comes in super emotional with a return, I'm more tempted to lie in that situation and say things just to make people more calm than I am to speak the truth, which I need to because they're about ready to return a pair of shoes that have looked like they've been stomped into the ground and are broken up and are beyond the return date. It's just that's a time where I feel more likely to lie, but I've learned how to resist that, so it's a lot harder for me to to fall into that. And I don't think that I have specifically dealt with pride as much, rather the opposite end of the spectrum of too much self-doubt. Mm-hmm. If anything, I've dealt with more personally.
Yeah. Well, like, I remember we went to the mall. Me and my wife, Ariane, we went to the mall one time. You know those people that are always at the kiosks that try and give you a sample and get your attention?
Yes, I hated that.
Yeah, I mean, I hated it too. And just walking past them, and you get this urge, almost like when somebody is going to accost you in a parking lot, or somebody that's in a median that's going to ask you for something when you're parked at a stoplight. But we were walking by, and this lady's like speaking to Ariane, "Miss, I have something for you," and try to give Ariane something. And they were selling hair straighteners. It was like little hair iron things. And we were on a date, man. We didn't want to be bothered, so I lied. And it was just a knee-jerk reaction. No, she's already got one. We don't need it. It's just to kind of make it seem like, oh, we don't need your services. Instead of just saying, no thanks, and just keep walking. And I'm like, why did I do that? Why is it so easy for me to do that? And I'm just thinking about how the character Sam in Atypical, or people in that show Love on the Spectrum, would have responded. They would have just, I don't know, I feel like being deceptive in that moment would not even have crossed their mind.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to be that way, that it would normally do that. I've had multiple people on either the spectrum or that have Down syndrome in my life. Mm-hmm. I spent a good chunk of my earlier years with a particular kid who had Down syndrome. And that's not the same thing as autism by any shape, way, or form.
Yeah.
But then I've also had some friends that have had autism, and I run an online gaming community still, which I used to talk about a lot when we first began thoughtraid, of which we have 2 people that have confirmed that they have autism. And from my experience, I don't know people with, it's not as friendly to say this nowadays, but I don't know people with mental handicaps to be people that are genuinely more deceptive than those who don't.
Well, you see, that's the weird thing, man. Like, people say that autism is a mental handicap, but just looking at the good side of it, like weighing that against the bad, I don't even know if I would consider it a handicap, because there are definitely things that are more difficult for autistic or people who deal with AVIC.
I guess it depends on how extreme their autism is. So you have high functioning people with autism that just don't understand certain social graces, and then you have some that are just nonverbal. And you have way far on that end of the spectrum. So it just depends. And in that case, I understand where the term mental handicap comes from, because in the same way that a person without legs can't easily get themselves around with a person who does have legs, in the same way, if you have to go through very specific regimens or something, as with someone with severe autism, or can't speak and therefore don't know how to verbally communicate what you need, that's a bit of a handicap. Not everyone deals with that to that degree.
Yeah. Well, I want to get too far into talking about autism in and of itself, because the topic today is about why I want to be more kind. And I guess that came from watching the show, and just I got to give a little story about this. So in Love on the Spectrum, there's this guy, Ronan, and he's meeting up with this girl, Katie, and she's on the autism spectrum, and she's also got a mild case of Down syndrome.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they'd never dated. Neither of them had ever dated before. And Ronan is really into F1 racing, like the cars, favorite sport. You know how people with autism seem to hyper focus on a specific thing.
Yes.
And so he decides, okay, well, Katie, I want to go on a date with you. Do you want to go? They went to some place. I don't know where it was. But basically, it's one of those places where you sit in this little seat, and it's got a steering wheel, and you have 3 screens, like the simulation racing places.
I've seen stuff like that even in our own mall.
Yeah.
It was one thing.
They went there, and he's like, okay, we're gonna do this. And so Katie sits in the seat, and he's trying to teach her how to race. And he's like, okay, Katie, you press the gas, and you can go. And you could tell, registering on his face, that he wasn't happy with how fast she was going. And so he suggests, you can go faster if you want, and she doesn't speed up at all. And then you can read it on his face. And then he says again, you can go faster if you want. And like, if I was frustrated that somebody's not doing something that I want them to do, I would voice that in a more obvious way with a little bit more coercion, But then a few moments later, they decided they wanted to race together. And all the while, he was super encouraging. And I'm thinking, like, if I was in that position and it was me and somebody on a date and I was in my element, which he was in his element, like he plays racing games, he loves that arena, he knows all the stuff about cars and whatnot, I probably would have just gunned it, and I would have gone around the corner, so kind of like showing off how awesome I am and how good I am at this. But and maybe that just comes down to personality. I don't know what you guys would do in that situation, but what he did was just like, it struck me. It struck me emotionally. He just looked over and he kept pace with her, and she was going slow, and he was narrating the whole thing. And he was like, oh, Ronan's taking off, but Katie's zipping past him. Oh, Katie, where did you get so much strength? And I'm like, that's kind of cool. And, the camera panned over and you could see her start to smile. And then they come up on a turn and she hits the wall, and he doesn't just zoom by, he slows down and he's like checking to see like how she's doing and stuff. And he's like, oh no, Katie's hit a wall. Ronan's overtaken her. It looks like it's all over for Katie.
Oh no.
And I guess the thing about it was he was so focused on her and being kind to her than he was about winning the race or enjoying himself. And I'm like, man, like, I wish I was more like that. Just that one instance, because so frequently when I'm engaging with other people, I'm so focused on how I feel. And maybe it's because I feel like I lack empathy in certain ways, but just being aware of another person and being kind to them in their current situation, I don't know, that experiencing that and watching this show just really made me want to get better at that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like thinking from outside of an autistic perspective, if you want to be more focused on other people, it's a matter of putting others before yourself and learning to see the absolute value in each person that you interact with, and fighting against any kind of selfish thinking within you, because it's going to come. You're going to have selfish thinking. I have selfish thinking when I'm interacting with people. I want things my way or whatever, and I have to actively work against that to remain present with them, because inevitably they'll do something that'll irritate me. And then I have the decision in that moment of, do I want to allow that to continue to irritate me? Or do I want to believe that I don't know everything, and that there is this person, I know that God loves them to a ridiculous degree, and how much do I want to make them feel loved in this moment? So I'm just thinking about them and their benefit intentionally. It's an intentional activity. It does not come natural, for me, at least. It's more natural now than it was when I was younger, because I grew up an only child. The whole world revolved around me. But I think that's a good thing that I started off with that, because I realized how quickly that the world does not revolve around me, and I knew I had to catch up with the rest of the world. Which then made me work very hard to learn to be more conscientious.
Yeah. Well, so before the stream, we were talking about some insecurities that I've been dealing with over the past week. And basically, the insecurity is just in my communications with certain people that are in my life. And it just seems like communication has stopped. And it led me to start making all sorts of assumptions about those relationships and about those people. And when I was just like thinking and praying about it the other day, I was like, man, if I want to be more kind, because I was already thinking that, like, how should I respond to these situations, right? And what I landed on was just thinking, okay, well, if I want to be more kind, then it's not as much about me. Well, let's just take insecurity. Let's take how I feel. Not saying that my feelings aren't valid, and not saying that I'm not worth feeling things and navigating. That's not what I'm saying at all, because that is very important.
Yeah.
But just changing my perspective on it so I don't sit in the insecurity and the assumption and think, okay, well, if I'm being kind to those people, how should I think about this? And I was just thinking, okay, well, they probably have their own lives going on. I'm like, according to 1 Corinthians 13, I'm supposed to hope the best and believe the best about them. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the case, I need to think of it from the perspective of, how can I love them? How can I give to them in this situation?
Here's the thing that we can learn from people with autism. They're focused on something, laser focused. And my mind was, I think God was helping me to put this together in my mind a moment ago. Like, the way to be more kind to others is to be laser focused on that person, in the same way that an autistic person is laser focused on whatever they're interested in general. Mm-hmm. So if I were to be in a situation like you've been recently, where I've had my close friends suddenly are just not available for me, I can instead be laser focused on, are they okay? Are they busy? What's going on? I want to know how they're doing. So then I actively then take steps towards them, like, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Whatever. And to be fair, there's wisdom in that, not to just become an oppressive person that's just you didn't spend this one time with me, clearly something is wrong. No, mm-hmm. Obviously you don't want to become insecure. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, having that singular focus on them and how they're doing and how I can build into their life, I don't have space for insecurity about oh no, what are they doing? I'm thinking more so are they okay? Is there something going on or whatever? And I want to go and I want to talk to them about it and figure it out, instead of allowing space for what ifs to form in my head and then insecurities mm-hmm. that will push me away with them prematurely without actually dealing with the situation.
Yeah. What do you think kindness actually is? Because I've been thinking about that this week, and I've just been thinking about I know that I've gotten a lot better in the past couple of years with conflict and being intentional about conflict, because conflict is healthy if you do it with the goal of strengthening a relationship, not just getting something off your chest. If you have a purpose behind conflict to build relationship, then it's healthy. So I know I've gotten a lot better at that. And I've gotten a lot better with boundaries too. But I think where I'm having a disconnect now is qualifying in my mind being a kind person, but also engaging in conflict and boundaries in a healthy way where both sides are held in the same high regard.
Well, yeah, I feel like kindness. Well, first of all, we could look up the literal definition of kindness, mm-hmm. and then we can then speculate also what forms of kindness looks like. So I feel like that's a good thing to do. Definition of kindness. Ooh, not kind X.
So I noticed that on your thing, the first thing that came up was definition of gaslighting. Brandon, is there something you want to tell me?
I don't even remember.
Is there a conversation we need to have?
Oh, now Google has a dark search theme. Oh boy, that's different.
Kindness, the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. A kind act. It is a kindness that I shall never forget. He thanked them for their kindness and support.
The quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate.
I think the one that pops out to me the most is considerate, because I think I'm pretty friendly. I think I'm pretty generous, but considerate, that just oof. It's this whole me first concept that keeps trying to pop up in my mind when I'm thinking about the situation.
Yeah, considering others. I guess that would be a form of kindness, of just I'm considering how this would make you feel. Because I feel like kindness can sometimes become hard to distinguish between that and maybe gentleness as well, because they're probably both easily entwined. They have some similarities.
Well, in So this morning I was reading Matthew 11:26, and it's that verse. If you would bring it up, Brandon.
So it's called Matthew what?
11:26. Mathis.
11:20. Nope. 6. I will type it.
Yeah. So it says, all things have been committed to me by the Father, and no one knows the Son except for the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son is revealed.
That's 27.
Let's see. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And it goes on to talk about, for I am gentle and I am humble, and my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Let's see.
Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And my yoke is easy enough, and my burden is light. But also at the start of that, it says, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned and revealed them to the little children. And I'm thinking, like, a lot of the things that go on in my head, especially things about self-preservation and just the deceitful thoughts, like, oh, yes, person trying to sell me a hair iron straightener, she already has one, thank you. Like, I would not have thought of that as a kid. I'm just thinking about, like, kids are pretty kind when it comes down to, I mean, they have their sinful sides, definitely.
Yeah,
but
it depends on the kid, but usually yes.
Yeah, like, I just feel like the, what am I trying to say? The the complexity, that's the word I was looking for. The complexity of my deceit and how I navigate things and how I think about them and how I rationalize them. Like, it's good to be wise, but at the same time, when it comes to things like this, I think I wish I could be a lot simpler, I mean, Jesus even said there that the Father has hidden things from the wise and the learned and revealed them to children.
Yeah.
And then later on he says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And he's talking about loving people, And I was just, like, that last part where it says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I was just, like, I was meditating on that this morning, just thinking, okay, well, what does that actually mean? And why is this so profound to me right now when I'm thinking about being more kind?
Why is that specifically? Take my yoke upon... Well, it's considerate. If you're talking about consideration, like, he is considering you and every single one of us are burdened by something. And so instead of expecting us to deal with it all on our own, he is allowing us to hook up with him, and he can shoulder some of that stress so we don't have to carry it all. Mm-hmm. And that's where the kindness comes in. He's being kind by not making us have to deal with every little thing that bothers us. He is allowing us to delegate our concerns to him while he guides us along, because he's gentle. He's also not gonna just roughhouse us as we're trying to learn things and to get things done in life. Like, he's gentle. So he's going to be patient and kind in the process, as he is also dealing with things that we don't have to deal with. And that's why he's talking about, he reveals it to little children, because it's like, not every kid is kind, but most kids are just who they are most of the time. I think more times than not, I find kids are who they are. And so they don't have a whole bunch of pretense that they've created or whatever to placate the rest of the world with. Like, they're not trying to put on a show, because they've just come out of the womb a couple years ago. What do they have? What do they know? What do they have to give even at that point? They have nothing to give, really. So it's like they have nothing to lose either, and they just are who they are most of the time. And then along the way, we encounter other people who have taken advantage of that, and people who have lied and deceived to us, or we've watched our parents do things they shouldn't do, and then that just ends up taking the wind from our sails and popping our balloon, kind of thing. And now we've become not confident, well, sometimes, but over conscious about things, that we lose the kindness, we lose the love, we lose those things that we otherwise had when we were not so aware of the sinfulness of this world.
Yeah, it just seems like being kind is a very simple way to live, because it's when you look at the idea of being kind in concept, it's really easy. Well, it's really simple, you know. It doesn't really have any additives or anything.
But it's risky.
It's risky.
It is risky for a lot of people who, you know, can see the nuances of life. It's risky because you'd be kind to someone and then people can take advantage of you.
Well, you know, I was thinking about this a while back. Like, there are a lot of people out there that I know who have dealt with a lot of life, and you can tell that they're seasoned and experienced. They're kind of like from Oliver Twist, that guy that... Did you ever watch that?
Nope.
You never even watched the animated one with the dogs?
First time hearing this.
Oh, man. Street smarts. There's a lot of people who have street smarts, you know, and they know which parts of town to avoid, how to relate to certain types of people, how to manipulate the situation for their benefit, and take care of number one, you know. And I used to think I always wanted to be that person, because it's like I don't like being taken advantage of. You know, I don't like trying to love somebody and it being not received well, or being made fun of for just being honest and authentic. But now, just thinking about people with a lot of quote-unquote street smarts and learning how to do the hustle game, you know? And, like, that word specifically, the hustle, it's basically getting out there and getting yours, you know? In my early 20s and going through my 20s, I always thought I need to learn to do that, you know, because nobody's going to do it if not me. And mind you, back then I didn't have a relationship with Jesus at all. You know, I understood that, well, it's me or it's nothing if I don't do this. So I need to learn how to take care of myself, and I need to get street smart. I need to, you know, learn my hustle. But now, like, the more I've learned about Jesus and the more that I've just engaged in that type of lifestyle where I'm learning to love people, it just seems like learning a hustle and learning street smarts and stuff, always, not learning it, but exercising them, always comes at the cost of the value of another person. It makes it really difficult to be kind to people.
But I think it depends, because it comes down to purity of heart and intention. Someone with street smarts can protect someone who doesn't and help them navigate situations that they would otherwise just fall for full force into.
Right, but from what? Because when it comes to street smarts, basically that's saying, here's how you learn to navigate relationships with people that you don't know for your protection.
Okay, there might be some situations that are not healthy. But then there are other practical situations of, if you know that there's a particular part of the street that's likely to have pickpocketers, and that could be avoided, or you can enter into that area knowing that that's going to happen and be prepared, that could be helpful, because you're thinking out for the other person, and like, this is what's likely to happen. It's you're not walking into a minefield blindfolded. You're ready to go. And that's not to suggest that if you knew that street was full of pickpocketers that you should avoid it entirely, because that could be a ministry field entirely. But you don't want to take your wallet into an area where people are likely to steal your wallet, because that's just foolishness. Like, you already know, why do that?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you become callous to love and kindness, and you just feel like that's unnecessary because someone can take you out, and you never open yourself up to trust someone, never open up yourself to be kind to someone, then that's where it's gone too far.
Okay, so with that in particular, we were at Walmart the other night, and there was this lady that frequents She frequents
Walmart.
The parking lot.
Oh.
She was one of those people that's walking around, and I noticed
Does she
her.
sell beads?
Yeah.
On a little string
Sometimes.
or something? Okay, I think I
But
know
this
her.
time she gave us the spiel of, hey, you know, I just got into town and we don't have enough money for gas, and I just need $12 so we can get a room for the night. And the reason I bring that up is, like, more often than not, when I engage with people that do that type of thing, I immediately throw up my defenses, and it's really easy for me to dehumanize them as far as put on a dehumanizing lens, you know, through which I view them, and think to myself, okay, I need to protect myself from this person, instead of thinking, how can I be kind to them? You know, and that's part of the thing that I'm talking about. You know, like, I'm learning conflict and I'm learning boundaries and I'm getting better with those. But I think adding a sprinkling, maybe like a cup's worth of kindness to the mix, sometimes I feel like I just don't have time for it. Sometimes I just feel like I'm at my emotional or just like whatever limit. And I just run out of kindness, or I'm too lazy to. I think that's a big part of it. I'm just too lazy to be kind in those moments. And I don't think I like that. You know, I wrote down the question, is it just not my personality to be more kind than I am?
No. The lack thereof of kindness is not a personality trait.
It certainly feels like it sometimes.
There may be some people that are more adept at being kind because every person has their strengths and weaknesses, so that way we can see what a great example of that is and then try to replicate that in ourselves. And at the same time, no one person is like, you know, not needing another person. Yeah. But that does not mean that you just can't be more kind. Like,
you know, when I was watching that show, I legitimately, guys, I had this thought. Now I know that I'm oversimplifying autism, and there's a lot of stuff that comes with it that I would not want. But I thought to myself, man, I wish I was autistic so that I could be more kind like them. That's a legitimate thought that went through my head, you know.
Now, it does come with its own struggles as one who's worked with people on a regular basis with autism, or at least Asperger's. I can't say like full autism, but definitely high functioning autism. You know, even at that level, and I can't say that every autistic person is kind, like, because, you know, I've had some people in our community who are not kind, but they are honest and they're not deceitful. Like, that is consistent.
Well, even that too, man. Like, I would love to be more honest, because I'm not a deceptive person. You know, I don't tell a bunch of lies, but at the same time, there is omission that I'm tempted to engage in.
Yeah, I mean, that comes with the territory, I guess, of facing fear and just deciding I'm not going to allow this to prevent me from speaking the truth. And again, I feel like there probably are situations of life or death where it's like you don't lie, but at the same time, you don't just throw out information. Mm-hmm. That's probably situations for that, but like it's probably not as frequent as you think.
Do you ever have thoughts like you want to be more kind, or just check yourself and think, man, I'm actually not very kind? Or maybe also I want to consider the word gentle, because I think I can have a heavy hand when it comes to dealing with people sometimes.
I mean, I've been recently going through a season where I've just wanted to be more bold because I've been so conscientious of what other people, how I might say something or whatever, that I've prevented myself from being honest and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've come a ways from that, from allowing. But, you know, honestly, a part of that also comes with the territory of being afraid to be kind because I'm concerned that will be taken the wrong way or something of that nature. So in a backwards way, yes, by wanting to be more bold, I've also wanted to be more kind, boldly kind. You know, like for instance, I've been praying for more people when I'm at work who are coming in with different ailments, which working with comfort shoes brings people with no end of list of ailments, which is wonderful. I just had a lady who came in today and she had some kind of bad thing going on with her back, bone spurs to be removed, and then she had blood clots going on. And I was like, this is not okay. Like, this, you should not have to go through these things. This is not God's will. And I asked her if it would be okay if I could pray for her, and she said yes. And so I took a risk by just putting myself out there. Hey, I see you've been through something. Let me pray for healing. Let me pray for genuine restoration and stuff of that nature. Mm-hmm. You know, and unfortunately, she was like, you're the first person that's done that. I'm like, that's not okay. I should not have been the first person to take a risk to be kind to you and to pray for your well-being. Mm-hmm. People should be lining up to do that all the time. I mean, not all the time, but they should be. I shouldn't be the first. There should be. We live in a state that's mostly Christian. There should be more people taking a risk and, you know, praying for your benefit. You know, praying for your healing and well-being and stuff, which you know.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, I feel like I've been more so trying to just be more bold, so that way my parts of me that can be more loving and kind can shine, when necessary, and I'm not really afraid of that being taken advantage of or misconstrued, So in a way, I guess so. It's just, it looks different. I don't know.
I think the idea of being kind to someone without regard for my own welfare is something I'd like to grow in.
Yeah.
Because I think I am willing to be kind to an extent, but there is a limit. And it usually, that limit, like I'll be kind up to a point, and that point usually terminates when it starts getting into space where I feel insecure, or space where I feel I have my own limiting beliefs about who I am. Like if I believed that I am who Jesus says I am, there's no reason why I should ever stop being kind. And if I believed that, like there's that verse that says that God is the avenger, that he's going to avenge me and take care of me and protect me. Because my only commandment is to love God with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, and love others as myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's a very easy job description. Very simple, not easy.
Simple.
Very simple job description.
Very simple.
And it's like, I wish I could just walk that out on a daily basis with people much better than I already do. And I think what irritates me the most is when I don't do that, I'm basically not believing that God is who he is, or I'm not believing that I am who I am.
The reality is, you can start right now. Right now, you can be more kind, more loving, and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to, wonder how am I going to work my way up to that. If you see it, I feel like one of the biggest hindrances to being more kind and more loving now is that moment where you pause and think. Mm-hmm. You see the opportunity, you can do it, but instead you begin to rationalize it, and then that just immediately shoots down any sort of kindness the longer you stay in that space. You cannot stay in a place of rationalization and be as kind as you would want to be.
Well, I think something that is contrary to one another is being logical and being empathetic. Because there are people in my life where they'll come to me and talk to me about whatever's going on, and my mind jumps ahead because I do this with myself too. I feel a certain way about something, but I quickly get up because that's what I had to do in retail, because I had to, sure, a customer pissed me off, or an employee was frustrating me, or I was in a place of tension because I had during Christmas and everybody calls out because they're sick or they just don't want to come to work, and I've got to solve a problem. And being a guy, also men typically are on the side of wanting to be problem solvers instead of feeling things, and so it's really easy for me to jump ahead 2 or 3 steps and say, okay, well, let's figure out the feelings later. Let's logically engage this. And I've been praying about being more empathetic lately, mm-hmm. and just taking my time to not quickly exit that phase of reconciliation, and I think that's my hang up, because being a life coach, relationship coach, whatever you want to call it, it's a problem solving type thing. Yeah. You have a goal. Here's where you're at. There's where you need to be. Let me map out how to get from point A to point B and make it incremental so it's believable. I'm really good at doing that. That's a gifting that I have. But as far as pausing at those moments where people can catch their breath emotionally, I think I really lack that.
Yeah, my mind, for a split second, I'm laughing a little bit because I got a little bit distracted with the thought of having a, some point we need to create, days gone without, or sessions gone without talking about pornography. We need to make that.
Brandon, we weren't even talking about pornography.
I know, but my mind already connects certain things together, and we got to bring it back to zero again. Anyways, so the reason why I thought about that was because of the fact that it's where I'm currently at when it comes to me with pornography, I had to come to a place where I realized there's no more left to rationalize through. I'm not some overly broken person. I need to work through another thing in my past to deal with so that way I no longer touch pornography anymore. I had to come to a place where it's like pornography just has zero place in my heart, mind, soul. Just none. Zero. Absolute none. Once I hit that place, I'm able to go, like, now something comes and it's arousing. I'm like, nope. We're not going there. There is no place. It don't matter what I feel. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter any of those things. We can just cast that out immediately. In the same way, and the reason why I link these things together is because in the same way when it comes to being kind and loving with other people, if you have space to think about it first, you know, and other than being inventive in kindness, like that's where it's one thing being inventive in kindness. You're thinking about how can I be extra kind to them. It's another thing to think about, do they deserve this kindness? Do I have the energy for this kindness? Do I have the money for this kindness? Whatever. The longer you sit and think about it, you know, it's just, again, it's eating away at whatever kindness you can present or bring to a person.
I told you that I talked to her. We have a mutual friend named Michael Cruz.
Who's wonderful.
Yeah. And I talked to him yesterday, and he was talking about his own things that he's trying to figure out.
We should have him on thoughtraid.
We should.
Yes.
And he was talking about how kindness is a fruit of the Spirit. So it's in Galatians if you want to look it up. And he said kindness is a fruit of the Spirit that's unforced. Or fruits of the Spirit are things that are not forced. Love yourself as your neighbor, kindness. And he said, when I've received love, it's easier for me to give that. And if I'm not giving love and all the little attributes associated with it, it's because I'm not receiving it. And we were just talking about how areas where we struggle to give something to somebody, like empathy, or in my situation, empathy and kindness. Something that made me think of was like, am I not kind to myself? Or do I engage in self-loathing? Do I engage in overthinking? Do I engage in being too hard on myself? Or like, am I not doing that for myself? I don't have the answer because I'm still thinking about that, but I don't know. Just a thought.
But a thought to that thought would be also like the golden rule, which is through the Bible: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So like if you find yourself coming up with a net zero of kindness coming from other people, you don't start by trying to get more kindness so you can be more kind. You unplug that well of kindness that God has put within you and start giving it out to others, and it will start coming back to you. You have to give what you want to receive. Because if you keep only giving it when you're receiving it, then all you're doing is consuming it into a black hole, and it's not going to start a generator that's going to start pumping back out. Like, the amount of mercy and grace that people give me comes in part because I give others mercy and grace at every possible juncture I can, because I know that I'm a flawed person who is very prone to make mistakes apart from Christ. And I would want people to be kind and merciful to me. So I'm going to give it to them regardless if they're going to be kind and merciful to me. I don't care if you're going to still throw me into prison and lie about me, after like I've worked with you and stuff and I've forgiven you, and you're still going to be, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to forgive you. I'm still going to forgive you no matter what terrible things you've done to me, because that rule continues to apply. It does not shift or change. You do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And it produces a harvest that comes later on. As people were learning cultivation, they would throw seeds onto the riverbank. The river would carry the seeds down, and as they would travel down the river, they would find that there was new plants that they could pick fruit and other things from. And in the same way, as we're giving out that to people, some of it's, you're not going to see it. It's going to fall into that river and sink to the river bottom. But some of it's going to go down, and you're going to find a bigger harvest of it. But you have to start by giving that today what you want to receive on the back end. Willfully. willfully, because if you start throwing in, I'm doing this for what I can get, that's just going to be like throwing, weeds in there. It's going to choke out whatever you throw. You don't get rewards for being a selfish person.
Well, I want to read this part again. Matthew 11:30. It says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." That's being highlighted to me right now because I think this is where I want to land with this talk. Because today's stream is titled what?
It is titled "Tim Wants to Be More Kind. Here's Why."
Yeah. So, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I think I've just been feeling burdened lately because I've been overthinking my own self-preservation.
You are burdened.
Yeah, and when I say my own self-preservation, I mean, am I a good husband? Am I a good provider? Am I somebody worth listening to? Am I doing a good job with what God's given me? Am I a good husband to my wife? Am I a good friend? Do I listen to people? Am I I'm constantly worrying about that stuff lately, and I think why. What was the title of that show now? Love on the Spectrum. Why Love on the Spectrum hit me so hard is it just seems like the people that were cast in that show, their objective was laser focused on being kind to the other person. And everything else was just shed. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that video that's on TikTok, or it's also on YouTube, of that sheep that was out in the wilderness for like 7 years, and they finally captured it, and it had all the like matted fur and stuff, and then they sheared it, and it's like, oh, I'm free. I wish I could just get rid of all this stuff and not worry about it and just be focused on being kind to people as God puts them in front of me.
Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Like, that requires saddling up with Jesus. And when he says take your yoke, like whatever he's showing you to do, wherever he's leading you, you follow him. And that's how you end up taking all that burden off. Because otherwise, like you're still carrying the whole burden on you. Mm-hmm. You have to shoulder it with Jesus. Has to be involved in your steps for you to be able to shed that overthinking off. Because when you're in lockstep with him, then he's able to encourage you along the way and direct your thinking and stuff of that nature. Otherwise, it's impossible. Also, hello.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, I think that's where I want to end. Basically, the whole concept of me being more kind. I want to shed all the Tim focus and be others focused. I want to be more empathetic. I want to engage in that with other people instead of thinking about things in such a black and white logistical, here's the answer to the problem type of thing. Because it's, if we look at Jesus, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, look at all the like things that our world considers social injustices. Like there's a
never-ending list of things sometimes.
Yeah, like there's the abortion thing. There's the LGBT stuff that people talk about. There's the vaccination mandate. And, there's all these things, and it's like it's not black and white. There is not one clear answer because we're complicated people. People are complex. And I think the only theme that is consistent through all of it is being kind, because as Jesus said here, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Humble meaning that he's not focused on his self-preservation. It's like, I'm just as human as you are. You and I are the same, regardless of the situation. You and I are the same. I'm going to be gentle, meet you where you're at, not insist on my own way, but insist on listening to you and walking with you through things. And you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And just realizing that the complexity of people is going to be complex, and part of navigating life, discipling and loving and engaging and serving, it's all based on just allowing people to be people and not trying to control that process, just understanding that love is sacrificial. And I really want to get better at that.
Yeah. So let's pray. Father, I just thank you for today's broadcast, and I thank you for all that you've shared with us about being kind to others. And I thank you, Lord, for the people with autism that you've used to show us what being laser focused on the right thing could look like. Rather than just being distracted by everything and allowing the cares of the world to destroy the goodness that you've placed within us. So, Father, I just pray that you enable us today to be kind to others, no matter what. We're not here to over-rationalize, are they worthy of being kind to? Are they worthy of my love? No, that we will just be kind and loving without thought, much like a child, much like a person with autism. Thank you, Lord, for helping us to be focused on love and loving others. And how is that other person doing? Are they okay? Are they comfortable? Are they thriving and where they need to be? And help us to get our minds off of our own self-preservation and fears of, are we able to do this or accomplish this or whatever, things that would hinder us. Help us, Lord, to really take on your yoke, because it is easy and your burden is light, and you have the ability to keep us away from self-consciousness and being overthinking and then accomplish nothing in life, especially anything that's ever kind and not selfish. So thank you for helping us and empowering us to keep our eyes on you to become all that we can be. And thank you, Lord, for just all that you've shared with us today. Bless it in your name. Amen. That's exciting. Oh, I'm excited. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this broadcast, make sure to hit the like button and to let us know what your thoughts are on kindness. What are some ways that you've learned to be kind to others and have learned to push through overthinking to be kind to others? What are your secrets? What have you learned about these things? Share that with us. We'd like to know in the comments below. And on top of that, if you've not done so already, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification, because when we go live, we want you to be there and be a part of it. And if you don't hit that bell notification, eventually YouTube will stop telling you when we go live. And if you don't follow us on Facebook and hit the like button there, you won't know when we go live either if you use Facebook more than YouTube.
And if you're a viewer who likes personal touch, we've also started a new segment called Afterthought.
Yes, and we would like to know. We like to do reactional videos to what people are putting out there on the internet. So if there's something that you would like for us to react to and share our honest thoughts and opinions with, share that with us. Again, let us know in the comments or send us an email at thoughtraid@gmail.com. So, is that what you were going to say?
That's what I was going to say.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome, Tim. Well, I want to thank you guys for watching. We broadcast every week on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be live again this Friday with a new topic, which we'll be letting you know about soon. So you want to be there for that.
I can see far away from where I've been. He says, I see a potential. I see a potential in my eyes. I see a potential. I never lost sight of the reason why you're alive. You're alive. You're alive. We sing Jesus, you're alive.